All right, we'll just give folks a second to log back in, and then we'll get starting. Where we seem to lose half the group bouncing back and forth. So.
They all went for coffee.
Yeah.
Refill the
break.
coffee.
It's fine.
I have a link if you guys are interested for vaccinations. I don't know if you're interested, but it doesn't show up on the county link. So I can send it to you. It's a Health Alliance direct link to Health Alliance. Not sure why it shows up, but I've been trying to coordinate my employees to get vaccinated because we're having a spike. So I was pretty much up all night dealing with logistical issues with employees and locations. And so if you guys are interested, I can send that to you.
I got my first shot 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
One of the few advantages of getting old. Getting old. It's not the only one.
Yeah, it's nice with the governors, with it now nonprofit employees and essential like government workers can start effective yesterday, but today is actually the first day for everybody to go get vaccinated. So that's good. We've got a lot of our employees that are going to be able to get vaccinated. So that's a good thing for sure. So.
Hey, Steve, on a separate, the parks start to take reservations the end of this month for the summer, right?
Yeah, so we should, and they should open by the end of April, but we should start taking reservations soon, if not already.
I called and she said the end of them because we have to book for our car show.
Yeah.
We're going to have it this year.
Yeah.
We have somebody calling in down here. Does
Yeah.
that mean you have to let them in or something?
Yeah, they're here. I think that.
Okay.
Yep. So I think we've got most folks back. I think we lost Jimmy again, but I think we've got enough to get started. So can I have a motion to exit out of executive session? Thanks, Hayes. A second with Pat. All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay. Great. So we're going to get back to our agenda for the day. Again, thank you everyone for bearing with us on switching back and forth between platforms. So I think up next, if it's okay with everyone, we'll do the Finance Committee report and Treasurer's report. I want to thank you, BA, for sending out that note in advance. I think that was definitely very helpful, and being that when so everyone has something in front of them to look at. So thank you.
No, you're welcome. Actually, it was kind of in response. Paul had asked specifically last month, and I know with him and Jim coming on the board, at least certainly the list of borrowers, we give them a little better understanding and kind of a refresher maybe for everybody else on the board.
Yeah.
So with that, as I had sent out, you can take a look. We have a total at this point of 17 loans, principal balance outstanding of about 727,000. The three that were discussed previously, we have one that remains in litigation that has been for some period of time, and George is working on that. And obviously the other two are two of the micro loans that were done last year. Unfortunately, we're having a little bit of challenge with them, and Mandy will be reaching out to those folks to get them back on track at this point in time. The revenues that we do have, and it is revenue to date on the income statement, you'll see year to date, we've got $5,600 in income, primarily coming from our interest income on our 108 loans. But we do have a sizable portion of that that is coming from interest income, and that's on the deposit balances that we have at the bank right now. Offsetting that expenses, the primary expenses are commercial insurance, our umbrella policy. We do have kind of the regular bill for the electric and utilities along the Kingston Business Park, our portion of that. Our total expenses are $2,829. So at this point, we are showing a small net income, small expense, but a small net income of $2,772. So obviously, it's only as of the end of February. So we will start to see some additional expenses and the like coming in the next month or two or three. But again, starting out in a positive. Bank balances. At this point, we have approximately $3.5 million in various bank accounts set aside for specific purposes. Interest is being paid on approximately 75% of those. And I'll get into that in just a moment. But as I said, we do have money set aside for the HUD borrowings. And I've said this before, in the event there was ever a reason that HUD were to come to KLDC and ask for full payment on our outstanding note, we do have monies set aside to pay that off in full if we had to. Just to give you an idea, currently the HUD balance is at $600,000. We have an interest payment that we are awaiting a letter, fax, and email from HUD. That'll be approximately $6,700. That's normally paid out in January, but I was speaking with Mandy as recently as yesterday, and she has gone back to HUD just asking them what is actually owing, because we've not received a bill from them for the 2001, the January billing. We do have a principal payment that is due in August. That will be in an amount of $100,000. It will then reduce our balance to $500,000. And this year we do have our final payment to the New York State Department of Transportation. That was for the creation of the road up and through the business park itself off Delaware. We have a payment due in June of 2021, and that is just a shade over $47,000. And then we are done square. That obligation is taken care of. So I know there was a question that did come up just regarding, and it may come up in a separate conversation, but there was a question just regarding a line item for legal professional services. The budget line item was $12,000 for 2000. And that is based on prior year expenses. When we do create the budget that's presented to the board, generally using last year's and then historical information to try and create the line items. That's a category that we've had a fairly consistent layer with as far as representation from attorneys, as well as our CPAs who do our audit, provide our end of year statements to us. So that line item is at $12,000. So at this point, does anybody have any questions just regarding the list of borrowers? I'll try and answer. If I get stuck, obviously I'll defer to Mandy, but we do have three, one that is an existing issue and two that are small. Each of those notes are at $7,500. And obviously Mandy's office will be reaching out to them just to get them back on target at this point in time. So.
Great. Does anyone have any questions for BA at this point in time? Hayes?
So if we saw a need going forward to increase the amount budgeted for legal services, there is cash available, BA? I mean, what's
Yes,
the that we need to do to sort of prepare for that?
Well, again, we've got 2, 4, 6. We've got 7 different accounts earmarked for particular funds. What I would do is I would get with Mandy and the mayor just to determine what would be the most appropriate. But we do have sufficient funds in 6 of those 7 accounts. So there is certainly monies available if we do need to increase our budget, or once we get to the December 31st and we look back, if we did incur some additional charges, we do have funds available. So there are several buckets, I guess, for lack.
But at any given point in the next couple of months, we could just do a simple budget amendment and transfer more money to that? Or,
yes, that would require a majority of the board vote just to modify the budget. And then obviously, once we did the report at the end of 2021, and Mandy checked me on this, we would just have to notify the ABO of any changes in our budget or our expenses, I guess.
Yeah.
We report to the ABO twice a year, so that change would show up in October when we have to resubmit a budget. And what happens is each year you guys get the printout that shows what they asked for that was actually spent, what you think is going to be spent, and then you project it out for 5 years.
And when we had done the most recent projection, each of those line items was at 12,000 for this year and for the following 4 years after this.
So there's no need to do it right now. We still have some time.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions for BA? If not, I'd ask for a motion to approve the treasurer's report. Hayes, second, I saw Pat. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Great.
Before I do step off, Steve, if I could just indulge for just a couple of more moments, only because obviously with this project that we're going to be speaking of a little bit later, there's a whole lot of folks looking at the KLDC. So just to kind of refresh, certainly for Paul, for Jim, just to bring them up to speed as far as the relationship of the bank that I work for and the KLDC. I just want to just fill in a couple of blanks, only because there is some misinformation that I've been asked about in the community, and I don't know if anyone else has been. But just a little bit of just a real brief history. The relationship itself was moved initially from Bank of America and from Key Bank. And that was done in the fall of 2012 and the spring of 2013. That was done by the previous administration, and that was done with Jen Fuentes. Jen was the executive director before Mandy came on board. That was done, it was solicited, I understand, by Jane Garrity, who was the branch manager, my predecessor in this location, and Glenn Sutherland, who was the president of the bank at that particular time. So we are somewhat limited in the options that we do have. Our charter says we can't use savings accounts, we can't use credit unions. So we are somewhat limited in what we can do. The primary reason, as I understand, for the move was because of fees and charges. The larger commercial banks, and in particular, the two that we were working with at that point in time, monthly service charges, check charges, item fees, and they weren't paying interest on any of the deposit balances at that point in time. So Glenn and Jane had worked with Jen, and the relationship and each of the accounts, all of the accounts we have today, were transferred over the better part of, 2012. So we're going on 9 years now. As you can see, interest is currently being paid on approximately 2.7 million of our deposit balances. Those are set in money market accounts. The transaction accounts is where currently there is not interest being paid. And you'll find that most commercial banks, business checking is just now starting to earn interest in the last maybe 12 or 18 months. I do want to let you know that I do periodically, about every 6 to 8 months, I do kind of canvass the community banks in the greater Kingston area just to see what options are out there. Right now, as I said, there's about 5 that I've called. Most recently was last month, March. It was October of last year and February of last year also. And for a variety of reasons, there isn't interest that is paid on much of the deposit balances, or what they're offering is considerably less than what we are receiving now. Although that being said, personally, you folks all know that most banks aren't paying you any real rate of return on your deposit balances, and most businesses are not receiving any real rate of return on their balances either. As the signers have changed over the years, and obviously I've worked with the mayor, with Mandy, as the signers have changed over the years, just update documents. So we have had signature cards and various documents updated over the years. Most important, and this had come up and kind of took me a little bit by surprise. Just so you folks know, I am not a signer on any of the bank accounts for Kingston Local Development Corp, and I never have been. And that was done specifically just to avoid any question whether I may have any undue influence or sway over the accounts, or I could do any transactions. So please be assured I can't. I do have access, obviously, to statement information. So for my board presentation each month, I am able to access that so I can get balances, transaction amounts. If Mandy has a question, if the auditors have a question, I can provide that to them. There was another question that somebody came up to me uptown and asked me about the lack of insurance on the balances. As you may be aware, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corp, the FDIC, does provide insurance up to $250,000 on a deposit account based on per type or per tax identification number. Obviously, we have more than that. There are mechanisms that are in place that banks do subscribe to that allow for 100% protection on the deposit balances. There's 2 general options that most banks will take. One of them is obviously the method that we use with Kingston Local Development Corp. The other option, and I'll just touch base on either of them. We, as do many other large institutions, we are a member of a larger financial network. And because of that membership, if we have deposit customers, and this is either individually or commercial deposits or municipal deposits, we will go backwards through our partner. And essentially what will happen is any balance over $250,000 is essentially placed in different banks. And it's based, and it is placed there in $250,000 blocks. So that does guarantee that there is coverage on all of our deposit balances for the KLDC. The mechanism that Catskill Hudson Bank uses with the KLDC is essentially what's called a third-party agreement. And what that is the bank purchases securities through M&T Bank as the custodian. And those securities are pledged to guarantee the deposit balances in the bank for KLDC. In the event the bank went under, the KLDC would then request those collateral securities be liquidated and the balances would be made whole. I think over the 30-some years, 36 years I've been doing this, I can remember reading that you can count the number of banks that truly failed in a very small handful over the last 90 years since the Depression. So just wanted to, just to let people know, let the board know, and certainly the newer members of the board, that the bank balances are insured 100%, that they are safe, they are protected. Most important, if anybody had questions, I am not a signer on the account. Mandy and the mayor are the signers on the account. I do work at their request. If they need something done, I can facilitate that. That's about all I can do. And last but not least, just a real quick update, because I know this had come up in a prior conversation. Just regarding, we have an insurance bill and evaluation that'll be coming up. Our directors and officers insurance does mature next month, or I'm sorry, later this. Again, conversation with Mandy. We have to provide Ray Guerin with an audited financial statement from the end of the year. We are just working with the accountants right now just to get that to him so that he can look to renew. And if changes need to be made, he does need that document as well as an application, renewal application. So that is in process at this point in time. So.
Thank you,
If
BA, for that.
anybody has any additional questions, I'll try and answer them here. Feel free, give me a phone, whichever works easiest. Steve, thanks for the additional time.
Yep. Anyone have any questions for BA? Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody, for that.
Thank you.
All right. So up next on our agenda, let me just look at it, make sure we don't miss anything. So this we brought up last time, and I don't know if folks have had an opportunity to consider their willingness to be the secretary of the board, but we do have an open secretary position. And so if anyone today would love to raise their hand, I would love to nominate you as secretary of the KLDC. Mandy, I don't know if you want to go through and just mention briefly what generally the role has been of the secretary position. I don't believe it's too time consuming at this point in time.
I'm the one that does the minutes. I'm the one that sends out the notification. Pretty much it's just a name for you.
So would anyone like to be able to add secretary of the KLDC to their resume?
Come on, don't
I'm
jump on
already-
it. Well,
I'm already VP. I'm already VP. I think my hands are full.
All right, so I'll let people think about it, but then next month I may just pick someone. So we'll put this on the agenda one last time next month. But maybe between now and then there are a couple of board members that may not be with us today. So maybe we'll make Al Tietzel do it because he wasn't here today. All right, so up next, in terms of other new business, was I wanted to just kind of give everyone an update on the actions of the Common Council related to 21 North Front Street. So some of you have probably seen in the papers, and is that earlier this month, in March, the Common Council passed a resolution authorizing the city to transfer the property at 21 North Front Street to the Kingston Local Development Corporation to assist the city in redeveloping the municipal parking lot into a multi-use redevelopment project. And so as part of the resolution, which I shared, I think a few days ago, if you hadn't seen it yet, there are a couple of things related. It goes through some of the nonprofit law that kind of covers the disposition of this type of property to an LDC. It then goes into the concept that pursuant to the KLDC taking this property and accepting this transfer would be that we would be interested in having a lease back occur. As you know, the lot is currently a municipal parking lot. And with that, we would want to be able to obviously continue to have it be a municipal parking lot until such time as the KLDC does an RFP process, selects a potential kind of a partner to transfer the property to kind of continue its redevelopment efforts. We would want this to continue to act as a municipal parking lot, continue to be plowed and taken care of, and to have insurance. And so that is something that is specifically spelled out, that if the LDC was to accept this property to move forward with the redevelopment efforts, the city would request that we do that. The resolution also goes through a few conditions of the transfer. What would be that our request for proposals that we put out require that there be public parking as part of the redevelopment efforts, as well as a public park, as well as public restrooms. That is kind of a condition of the resolution, and that if any of those things are not met, the property would transfer back to the city of Kingston. And so I just wanted to briefly just share that with everyone, and to just let you know that that is officially, I signed it a few weeks ago. And so you now have that. So I wanted to mention that. I wanted to mention that as part of our efforts discussing this property redevelopment, we really do believe that having outside counsel would be appropriate. I think we all agree on that. And so we've identified at least kind of 2 contenders that we've felt really have good resumes and could be a good person for us to work with. And so over the next week, I'm going to schedule interviews with those 2 individuals, and I would encourage as many board members as possible, if you're able to pop on those interview calls, so that we can then make a decision. I'm happy to hear that there's already money budgeted. At some point, we may need to kind of increase that amount depending on the amount of legal services needed. But for now, at least it seems like we can bring someone on right away to be able to help us in this process. And so that's good news. And so I'll be sending that out to everyone in terms of dates and times in the next week. I did want to also mention that as part of that effort, I do think that, we as a local development corporation have a lot of other things to do as well. And so I would love to, if possible, be willing to schedule a kind of a series of special meetings where we can focus just on 21 North Front Street. And that can be the topic of conversation. I think it's good for us. I think it's also good for the public to know, in particular, when we're discussing this agenda item, because there may be more interest than maybe some of our normal business that the KLDC attends to. And so I would propose that we do schedule a special meeting kind of in between this today and our next meeting, to kind of have our first meeting with our new lawyer, whoever that ends up being, as well as discuss the acceptance of the property and the ability for us to allow me to sign any leaseback agreements with the city. So that would be kind of what I would expect to be kind of on the agenda of our kind of first kind of 21 North Front Street dedicated meeting. And so I would send out some proposed dates to folks, in the next week or so, to see if we could get something like that on the calendar. And then I think going forward, that type of process will also help guide us in, developing a draft RFP if we get to the point of wanting to find, an entity to transfer the property to help continue those redevelopment efforts. And so I've started to work on a draft RFP. Once we have once I have the draft kind of put together enough, I'll make sure to share it. And by then we'll have legal on board, and they'll then be able to also review it. And we'll be able to kind of have a process going forward for that. And so those are my updates at this point related to 21 North Front Street, and happy to take any specific questions or at this point, Hayes.
Steve, what do you envision as the timetable on this, the KLDC board taking any vote on whether to accept the property?
So I think I'd like to, one, have our new legal firm with us, to be able to help draft that resolution, and to be able to help draft the kind of any lease back agreements that we have with the city. So I would hope that, in the next 2 weeks to a month, we at least have that part of the process started, and then go from there.
But, so nothing before at least a month
Yeah, I would think that
in terms of a formal vote.
yeah, I would think that we would be able to get legal up and running in 2 weeks, get the process started, but I don't think we'll have something formally to vote on until our April meeting.
So you do see this potentially next month. Okay.
Yeah. Any other
Steve, I'm not
questions?
seeing resolution documents or disposition documents you mentioned up front. Could you resend those?
Yeah, so right, what I sent out was a copy of the resolution from the city council 2 days ago. I don't know if you didn't get that, let us know, because maybe we've
I
got.
did not.
Okay, so I responded to one of the emails that somebody else from the board sent out related to the lawyer stuff. So maybe we don't have everybody's email on there. So, which means you probably didn't get those emails either. So we'll double check to make sure that we've got a good email list. And so Mandy will make sure that that gets updated. And I'll share that with everyone again.
Thank you.
Yep.
I got it.
Yeah, I don't know what wrong.
Steve,
A lot of whereas.
Yes, a lot of whereases. Glenn, did you have something? Or Jimmy?
yeah, Steve, a question.
Sure.
In the Common Council and yourself are covered by the city's indemnification program. We as board members, could we be included within that framework? But all of us were kind of hanging out there individually, we've been told. And going along with that, with Ray Guerin and doing the insurance, could we look at how we could be blanket covered rather than each of us kind of having our backside available?
Yeah, so
Could
my
you look into
understanding.
that first?
Yeah, so my understanding is that per the bylaws and charter of the KLDC is that we are indemnified by the city as a city entity. And so that is, and I think that Ray, we may have covered that in one of those earlier emails related to the directors and officers insurance. But so not only do we have the city indemnification, we do have the traditional directors and officers insurance, which also covers us individually. And so there's no individual opportunity for us to be individually gone after, or at least that will be upheld in court. But again, Ray is going to relook at our total assets, and that's really what determines how much insurance coverage we can get as an organization. And so that's what the audit will be for him to be able to, when we do our renewal next month. But our bylaws, and the creation of it indicate that we are covered. At least that's my interpretation of it. And again, our legal team can, fill in on that. But I think that that's my sense of reading the documents. I had Jimmy and then Paul.
Yes, Mayor, I just have one quick question. With the actual transfer, is it just the parking lot and the road, or it's the parking lot and not the road?
Correct.
I think there might be a little confusion there.
Yes, it is just the parking lot. It is not the road. The city at this point has not transferred the road, and I don't believe at any point will it have to transfer the road.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Paul, I think you were up next.
Yeah, just want to let you know, I did see that indemnification agreement and I did read it. And according to what we have, we're fully indemnified by the city of Kingston as a board and individuals, which is very unusual as well.
Yeah, thank you for that. All right. Yeah, Hayes.
So Steve, just getting back to this timetable, if you're looking to have a formal vote on the KLDC accepting the property or not in April, I think in addition to the special public meeting to discuss it, you know, there also needs to be some considerable amount of time formally scheduled for us to talk and consult all collectively with whoever we bring in as our new special outside counsel too. So do you see that sort of happening at the same meeting in an executive session portion?
Yeah, we would definitely be able to have an opportunity to be counseled by our legislative individuals. And so hopefully we'll be able to get that. And again, I think this will all depend on the timing of our legal team to see, you know, what time they have to commit to us. So they may play a role in determining the final schedule. But our hope is that we'll be able to get that to a place where everyone feels comfortable. And I've also, again, the records aren't that great from back in the day, but we're also looking at when the KLDC took ownership of the Bank of America building on Broadway. We're trying to also look back at our corporate records to see what information we did in terms of, you know, accepting that property, how we disposed of that property, just so we're also looking at, you know, what we did back then for kind of at least historical sake. Hopefully we did everything correctly then. I'm sure we did. So, you know, we'll have at least a framework to kind of repeat as we move forward on this one as well. So, but that happened in 2011, 2012.
Yeah, I just want to make clear that I, as a board member, I feel strongly that we're going to need more time in consultation with the new legal person than just, you know, the same meeting we're possibly taking a vote. I think it's got to be extensively more time than that.
I think the Bank of America building was a little bit of a different scenario, because if I remember correctly, we repossessed that for lack of payment. Am I not correct on that? Who's a long timer here? Glenn, I think you probably remember.
I think it was a gift.
What?
I think we were donated
Yeah.
to the building.
I think we
Is that
got,
what it was?
we took that over from Bank of America for for $1 or something.
For $1.
Yes.
And then we sold it.
Yes.
Anyone have anything else? But Hayes, I agree. We definitely want to make sure we spend time to feel comfortable with the work that we're doing. Okay, so other
yes,
topics.
at this point, Mr. Mayor and everybody,
go
this
ahead.
is Joe McDole.
Yep, go ahead, Joe.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, Joe. Go ahead.
Oh, yes. You have another topic? I could wait to the end when you finish, and I just have something to say once we get to the end.
Sure. No, I mean, I just had old business and I didn't have a lot, Andy. Yes.
I'm sorry. One more thing. I was contacted by a gentleman who had asked about whether or not we would consider allowing a indoor tennis court to go into the business park. So I just have to bring that up. And maybe everybody can kind of think about that. I can forward information to you guys, but he just wanted to see if we had any interest in allowing something like that to happen. I mean, it's a light industrial park, but it's not to say that we couldn't change the parameters of what could or could not go in there. So I just want to bring that up.
Right.
Yeah, I think
That's all I have.
Yeah, I think if there's anybody that's interested in building, you know, anything up there, I think that that could be a great use as well. So I would say if we could follow up with that, that would be great.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Thank you.
So Joe, I think you're up now. I think that's all we had for our our regular agenda here.
Okay, great. So I went to one of the board meeting, the training for the board meeting, which is an excellent training yesterday, and I found it quite interesting and learned a lot from it. And I know that I'm on another housing authority board, and which is a great board, and we do the right way. Needless to say, there was an article that I read pertaining to me personally, my integrity of the way I do things. And from the start, I always said that I like to be transparent, and I don't like dealing with murky waters. And that's just me as an individual. And anything that I have, I earned it. Nothing was never given to me. And just for the public to know as well, the article was pertaining to the bidding that I do with the city jobs or whatever. Each job that I've done with the city, I bidded on. I just want to make that clear. I bid on every job that I worked for the city. Nothing was never given to me. I wasn't raised for anybody to give me anything. I earned it. Not only that, there's a lot of things that I'm still not aware of pertaining to this board. There's a lot of things that's not clear, that's clarified or transparent to me as of yet, and it's almost been a month. And anything that I do in the community, I do it from the heart. I do as much as I can in the community. I try to be a pillar of the community, especially when dealing with youth, the elderly, and anybody who I can help out in my company. Anything else we can do, we help out. There's a lot of things that we do. It's not even in the public, and it's not about being in the public. It's about doing the right things as a person. And right now, I'm really not comfortable on this board, and I'm going to hand in my resignation.
Well, Joe, I would hope that before you actually hand in your resignation, you take a moment to either speak with myself or Mandy or some of the other board members. I know that there have been folks in the community that have said, things that are not true, and, you may feel personally attacked by some of the, folks in the community who don't know you and don't know the great work that you've done in our community, or what the role you could play here as a board member of the Kingston Local Development Corporation. And so I just would encourage you to, maybe reach out to some of us, or if I could encourage my fellow board members to also reach out to you, to just let you know that we do have your back, and that, you shouldn't feel bullied, to step down from a board just because of some, untrue accusations that get made about you out there in the community. And so I just wanted to let you know that we're here to support you in this work. And I hope that you'll, just take a moment to reflect on that and see if there's anything that we can do, here in our community.
Okay, great. I just wanted to put that out right now.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that's what I've got for today. Does anyone have anything else they wanted to share before we ask for a motion to adjourn? Okay. So just to kind of recap, I'm going to be sending out some dates related to having our legal representation, interviews. Please let us, Mandy and I, know as soon as you can as to whether you're able to attend those. What I'll try to do is get them both on the same day in kind of the same block of time, so that we make it a little bit easier for everybody. We'll then also work to see if we can get then a meeting scheduled with that person and us as part of a special meeting to be able to kind of have our first working session to work through some of these issues related to 21 North Front Street. And then we will go forward from there. And I would assume that at some of our very first meetings together as a group related to it, we'll set a more we'll try to put together an actual timeline that, we think is achievable and realistic, for everybody. So that's what I've got for kind of our recap for the meeting. And I really do appreciate everybody's time today and your willingness to devote the last hour and a half to the KLTC. So I'll have a motion to adjourn if someone's interested.
Motion to adjourn?
All right. Thanks, Paul. Do I have a second?
Sorry, I did.
All right. Thanks, PA. All right. Thanks, everybody. Be well, okay?
Okay, bye.